In our second Figma assignment, I'm going to try to give you a little experience in designing icons and doing it yourself, not just like finding them on the internet. And I'm going to try to give you plenty of time to work this through and get this done. Let's look at a couple of things. Like, for example, if I go to Twitter, I'm opening up Twitter on my phone. And if you'll look at the bottom of the Twitter screen, you'll see 5 different icons down there. And Twitter is banking on the fact that their users get accustomed to the app enough that they know that that first icon means home. You've got a search icon that looks like a little magnifying glass. The one in the middle is called Spaces. You've got a notifications icon that looks like a bell. That's pretty common. And then a direct message or a DM icon that looks like an envelope. But they don't have any text down there. They just made little symbols, and they figure that their users are going to get used to those icons and they're going to know what they are. The blue plus sign that is floating on top, if I scroll the Twitter content, that little blue plus sign stays in place. It's in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's for adding a tweet, right? And it just stays right there the whole time. So that's kind of a user experience feature. That's a little icon as well. Let's get out of that one and go to the App Store again. Now, in this case, if you look at the bottom menu bar of the App Store, they've got little icons down there that look like a calendar and a rocket and a little stack of applications, but they also labeled them with text. They have games, apps, arcade, search down at the bottom. And so in this case, they decided, well, we're not just going to rely on the little picture itself. We're going to also put some text down there. If we were to look real quickly at just, for example, the clock icon that is on most iPhones, again, down at the bottom. And here's another user experience thing. Does it always have to be at the bottom? A lot of these little icon collections are at the bottom of these screens. Do they have to be there? Not necessarily, but I guess a lot of app designers have decided that's the best place to put them. But you've got world clock and alarm and stopwatch and timer down there, and you have little icons that kind of go along with those. But again, the Apple Corporation decided, well, we want text to be along with those so that nobody mistakes what those are for. So that's the whole idea of getting into icon design. You want to try to make things look pretty simple. They're usually not very big. They try to convey a meaning. Sometimes you do label them with text, but not always, as you've seen. So our assignment is going to be about creating a series of icons that I'm going to assign to you. So let's take a look. The handout will be posted on Google Classroom at the time you're working on the assignment, and it's going to look like this. This will be a new design file that you'll work on Figma. And you'll just have to take the frame tool. I'm going to show you all of this, but you'll take the frame tool and just kind of create a frame for yourself to work with. And then here come the icons that I'm going to ask you to use. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you some options for how you approach it and how you get the job done. The icons that you create do not have to look exactly like what you see here, but the handout does the purpose of giving you, okay, what is assigned? What do I have to make to complete this assignment? Here are the first 4. You're going to have to make some kind of home icon. I want an arrow. I want a profile icon that looks like a little person. I want something that could represent a calendar icon. And again, they don't have to look just like that, but those are suggestions. Scroll this on down. You're going to see 4 more. There are 8 assigned icons. You're going to have to make a mail or direct message icon, a photo icon, a video icon, and then also a group icon. Now, there's a bonus option on here. The bonus option is to create some kind of like icon, which is very often a heart or a thumbs up. You don't have to do 2 of them. I put 2 different examples on the handout, but you do not have to do 2 to get the bonus. You can just do 1. And if you have a different idea for a like icon, then you could do a different idea. Be okay with your own design. The bonus is worth 10 points. The 8 icons are all worth 5 each. You have to do a decent job. You can't be sloppy. And I'm going to show you some different options that you have when I get over here to Figma in just a minute. But the icon or the handout is going to keep you on track here. Here are the 8 that you have to do: the home, the arrow, the profile, the calendar, and then scrolling on down, mail, photo, video, and group and then your bonus. All right, so let's hop back up here and let's get to Figma. Here we go. And I want to show you one that's already done. This is one that's finished. Right? I did all of these. I designed these icons myself right there in Figma. And I'm going to show you some. And in this movie, I'm probably not going to do all of them, but I'm going to show you a few things that I'd like for you to know so that you can have some options to work with here. So it's this kind of thing. You're just going to kind of work on making a set of icons. And we're not going to make them. Icons are usually pretty small. We're not going to worry about making them all that small. You're just going to make them and work to make them look decent. All right. So let's get back here to where once you're logged into Figma, this screen will look something like what you'll begin with. And you're going to create a new design file. I would recommend you come up here to the top middle and you call it something like icons. I'm going to call it icons demo. All right, so give it a name up at the top. I think that's a really, really good idea so you don't have a whole bunch of design files that are just called untitled, untitled, untitled. I don't think that's very wise. Take the frame tool over here. Keyboard shortcut for the frame tool is F. Take the frame tool and just draw yourself a good working area. All right, it doesn't really matter that much what size it is. Just take the frame tool, drag it out, and give yourself some area to work on. All right, so let's go to work on some different options that you have to build these things. And I'll kind of build as I go and show you some options as I go. Let's think about the home icon first. One of the first ones that you have to do is, scroll this back up, a home icon. Doesn't have to look just like that, but you got to make a home icon. Well, all right, so a lot of what you're going to do today is going to happen with this shape tool right up here on the toolbar. There's a rectangle, a line, an arrow, an ellipse, a polygon, star, all these things. If they would be helpful for you, use them. Now, do not, and listen to me, do not go out and find icons on the internet and then do place image and stick them on there. If you do that, you get a 0. That's not what I'm after at all. You build them yourself. You make them yourself. That's what this assignment is about. I want you to do it. All right, a home icon, right? Well, I'll start with a rectangle, and I'll just draw. If you hold the Shift key, you get a perfect square. If you don't hold the Shift key, you can make it, any kind of rectangle that you want. So if you want a perfect square, hold the Shift key, and that will give you a perfect square, and you can do that if you want to. Now, we learned, and I'm going to kind of scoot this over. I may even move this over. We learned in a previous assignment that you can, over here we're in the design section of Figma here, and you can work with fill colors and strokes and all that kind of thing. So maybe I'll just fill that with black. I don't know that I'm going to stroke it. I'm just going to have a black fill on it here. All right, so I just wanted to fill it with a different color, and you can do whatever you want with color however you want to. Now, I think what I'll do next is I want to put that's going to be the basic part of the home, the roof. So I want to put the house, right? So I want to put a roof on it, and so I'll go over here to I'm going to use the polygon tool this time. So I'll drop that menu down where the rectangle tool is, and there's a polygon tool. I'll click there. Now, if I hold the Shift key, it makes a nice regular polygon, but if I don't hold the Shift key, I can make it wider or things like that. Now, let me show you a couple of things about the polygon here. If I didn't change anything. I just took it and I clicked it and dragged it. And if I float my mouse over these little circles that you find in different locations, like right here on this corner, it says count 3. If I drag that up, what it's doing is changing the number of sides on that polygon. I've got it up to being a hexagon now because I raised the count. I'm up to 8 or 9 or 10, right? Or if I pull it down, I can take it down to 3 is about as low as you can go, because if something just has 2 points on it, it's a line. It's not a polygon. All right, so I can change the count on that. And I could also change, this is where you could curve the corners. If you feel like, well, I want to curve the corners a little bit, you certainly could do that if you want to. I don't think I'm going to. So I'm going to just kind of take this down here and see how we're sizing up. How am I doing on size? If you move one object near another, you're probably going to see some red lines that kind of pop on and they're trying to help you say, hey, you got this lined up pretty well. Those centers are lined up pretty well. So that's kind of a nice thing. And then you have to decide about things like color. I'm going to go ahead and make that roof black like that. All right, I just changed the fill color. And then you could add other little details if you wanted to. What if I wanted, I don't know, what if I wanted a chimney coming out? So I'm going to tap R for rectangle, and I'll just draw a thin rectangle like that. And I'm going to change the fill of that rectangle to black, like I did before. I'll use my arrow tool, which is, by the way, keyboard shortcut V, and I'll just lay that rectangle kind of like that. It looks like a chimney sticking off the roof. I could add little things like, here's one other thing. I could hit R for rectangle again, make a small rectangle. Maybe I want to fill it with a white color. Make sure I get it selected here, and then place it on here if I want it to look like a door. All right, so that's coming together, right? This is not terrible. It's looking like a pretty decent icon. You can build it however you feel like you want to build it. Now, this is actually made of several different pieces, right? I used, I think I've got 4 different pieces in making that. Okay, so I'm going to take my arrow tool and select all of it here. And I'm going to do that. And we talked about this in a previous assignment. I'm going to group it together. You can do that 2 ways. Control G on the keyboard, or if you do a right click, you have it all selected, you do a right click and you can group selection. That would work as well. All right, so I'll just group that selection. Now, I'm going to just park this someplace on my frame here. And if you want to, and this is really up to you, I could take the type tool here. Sorry. And I could just label it. All right, I created a little bit of type there, and I'll make that slightly bigger and just park that there. And you could label it if you want to. You know, it's like we said, sometimes icons have text with them and sometimes they don't. Or if just for the purpose of this assignment, if you just want to label them as you get them done, then that's okay. You can do that. All right, let's look at a different icon here. We'll look at some other options. Another thing I want you to do is build an arrow. And actually, if you'll look at the arrow, it could be very similar to the house, right? It isn't that much different. But I do want to show you a different tool, a different way you could do it if you want to. On the toolbar up here is a pen tool. All right, so the keyboard shortcut for the pen tool is letter P, or it's right next to this. It'll be, you know, right next to the rectangle tool there. So I'm just going to click on the pen tool. And one way that the pen tool works, there's a number of things you can do with the pen tool. But one way that the pen tool works is if you just click and then move your mouse, don't drag, but just click. If I just click and then move to a new location and click, and I move to a new location and click, and I move to a new location and click, and I move to a new location, you see the idea? I'm just dropping these little anchor points every time I click, and it's even helping me line these things up. And I click, and then if I go back to where I started, if you'll look carefully there's a little icon, like a little dot that pops onto the pen tool and it says, okay, you're about to close up this shape. You're about to finish this. So I'm just going to click where I started right there. And now it's done, right? I could select that with my arrow tool. And then I could do all of the things that I feel like I want to do to that. I could give it a fill. And you can do whatever you want with color. And I could give it a stroke if I want to. You know what? I might change the fill color so I can give it a stroke, and I'll make that stroke like 5. And I could put the stroke on the outside if I wanted to. There's different options. If you'll just look, there's options that you can play with here. And so look, I have an arrow. Now, if you wish, if you have created something with the pen tool and you think, man, I was a little bit off. I just didn't quite get it the way I want. You can double click it. And if you double click it, you will see the little white dots where you dropped all your little anchors, and you can grab those and adjust them. You can move them. If you feel like, well, I didn't get it the way I wanted it, you can adjust them, right? You can make some adjustments. If you want to stylize it a little bit, like maybe I want that angle on the back end of the arrow. Maybe I think that looks cool. So you can adjust them a little bit. You can kind of tinker with them and adjust them. And then if you're going to do that, if you double click on a shape like this and you're altering it and you're kind of just playing with it and doing some things to it and getting it the way you want. Come up here and click this Done button on the toolbar, or I think you can just kind of double click off of it as well. If I double click it, I can get in there and edit. And if I double click off of it, that kind of indicates, okay, I'm done, I've finished. And so now I have an arrow, right? And I did this one with the pen tool instead of using shape tools, but I don't care how you do it. What you have to do is solve the problem. How you solve the problem is up to you. All right. I might use my Alt key and just drag that text and double click and say arrow, right? You don't have to label them if you don't want to. If you're thinking, well, that's dumb, labeling them, then don't do it. You don't have to do that. It's up to you. Let's look at another option. I'm going to show you the profile icon. Let's look at another option there. Now I'm going to kind of pick up speed a little bit. All right. For the profile icon, I'm going to use the ellipse tool here. Keyboard shortcut is O for ellipse, right? Or you can just pick it off of that menu. I'm going to use the ellipse tool. And I'm going to start off by drawing I'm going to hold the Shift key. If you hold the Shift key, it'll make a perfect circle. If you don't hold the Shift key, you can make all kinds of ovals. But if you press down the Shift key, you can make a perfect circle. And then I'm going to make one. I'm going to tap the letter O again and make another one that's a little bit larger, like that. Now here's another thing that is true about the oval tool. When you first draw it, if you'll hover your mouse back over it here, you draw the oval and you hover your mouse, you'll see that little circle. And I can grab that circle and pull it around like this, because in this case, I don't really want a full circle for the body. Well, I'm going to make like a head and shoulders kind of thing for this. So I'm using that arc button and I'm pulling, it says sweep -50, right? So I pulled it around and I've done this kind of thing right here. Now I'm going to take this. This is kind of like it's like a little person icon, right? I'm going to overlap them a little bit. I want them to overlap. Okay. Now I could group that. I could select both of those objects and I could do that whole thing where I said right click and group selection. But I do want to show you another opportunity that you have if you want to use it. If I select both of those and I come up here to this button that's in the top middle and it says if I hover over the little arrow, it says Boolean Groups. That's a weird, but what I'm really going to do is union selection. But I'll show you this. If I drop this menu down, some of you will be familiar with this stuff. I can unite things together. I can do a subtraction, an intersection, and exclude. But really what I want to do is take that circle and that half circle and kind of unite them together. It's a union. So I'm going to drop that little menu right there and say union selection. And it kind of makes this so it's one piece now. It's not really two pieces anymore. I don't have to group it. It's just one piece. It just got united together. I'm going to fill it with a different color. I'm going to use kind of a gold. And I'm going to add a stroke to it. But again, I told you earlier, whatever you do with color is really up to you on this. So I've got a gold fill and a black stroke, and I'm pretty happy with that. All right. And so now I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag this text over here. I'm going to double click, and this is going to be profile. Let's look at a calendar. I think a calendar is next. I'm going to start this. I'll tap R for a rectangle and draw just kind of a box like this. And I'm going to curve the corners a little bit because I like it. Okay. Now for a calendar, you can kind of think about how you want it to look, but I'm not going to do a ton more. I'm going to draw a line that I will stroke up a little bit. I'm going to make that like 5 pixels thick. And then I think, remember that if you take your arrow tool and you hold the Alt key, you can drag an object, press the Alt key and drag something. It makes a duplicate. I'm going to play a little bit with color. I think I'll fill with white and stroke with black, but I'm going to put my stroke at like 5. And I want this to kind of just hang right there, and I want this to kind of just hang right there. And again, if you're careful, if you move slowly enough, those lines, those red lines on there will help you kind of line things up. And let's see, what else do I want to put on my calendar? I'm going to put like a dividing line across the top. So I'll take my line tool once again. Keyboard shortcut for the line tool is L. And I'm just going to draw a line. If you hold the Shift key, it'll go straight across. And I'm going to draw my line across like that. And I'm going to make that stroke a little bit thicker with a stroke of 5. So I'm pretty happy with that for a calendar icon. I made a box and I curved the corners, and then I just added some lines to make it look like a calendar. Remember, icons don't have to have a ton of detail. They just have to get the idea across. I'm going to take all of those objects that I have right there, and I'm going to group them. I'll do Control G on the keyboard. You didn't see me do it, but trust me, I did it. I'm going to hold the Alt key, drag over my text, make this a calendar, and yay, another one done, right? Cool. What else are we doing? Well, again, I don't know that I'm going to do all of these, but who knows, I might. Mail or direct message. Well, I'll tap R for rectangle, and again, this isn't that hard. I'm going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to grab those little corners. I like it rounded. You don't have to round it if you don't want to, and it could be as simple as this. I might just go ahead and add a stroke to this. I want like a 5-point black stroke around that. I think I want to make like an envelope flap on the back of that, which I could do with a triangle, I believe, or maybe what I'll do is just take that pen tool, I'll tap the letter P and just go click, 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 like that. Now, the pen tool wants to keep drawing, and I don't really want to keep drawing, so I'll just press Enter, and that tells the pen tool, hey, I'm done drawing, right? I don't want any more. Well, see, that doesn't look terrible. Yours wouldn't have to look like that, but it's for a message or a direct message or mail or whatever. So I think I'll just select, I've got two things there. I've got a rectangle and I've got this little angled line that I made with the pen tool. So I'll select both of them. I'll do Control G on the keyboard to group them so that they stay together. I'll hold down the Alt key and drag some text down here. And this is going to be message or mail or however you want to say that, right? Okay, cool. What else are we doing? Photo. Now, a lot of times people will say, I'm going to start building while I'm talking. Maybe they don't want to do a photo like this, because what I did on mine, again, I kind of rounded the corners of the box a little bit. I just like that idea. And I made it look like some mountains, right, with a sun up in the sky. But a lot of times people say, can I make it look like a camera, like with a lens on it? Well, sure you can. You can make it any way you feel like you want to make it. It's up to you. I'm going to fill it with white. I'm going to stroke it with black. I'll make that black stroke 5 pixels. Again, I think I'm going to do my kind of mountain rangey thing just by taking the pen tool and just go click, 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 and then I'll just kind of come down here and click there. And if I'm done drawing with the pen tool, I can press Enter, and that will tell it that I'm done. Remember, if you feel like I didn't really, you could delete it or Control Z undo it. But I could also double click on that if I wanted to and think, oh, you know what, I want to pull this down a little bit more and maybe a little bit over like that. I didn't get that one anchor point right where I wanted. So double click it, adjust it however you want, and then double click off of it, and bingo, got it. Now I'm going to also stick I'm going to hold the Shift key and put a little sun up in the sky, which I will fill with white and stroke with black. And I use a lot of 5-point strokes, but again, do your own thing. All right, so it's supposed to be a picture, right? And like I said, if you would rather do it so it looks like a camera lens, right? You got a box and it has a camera lens on it, then do that. Use your imagination. I'll take all of those pieces. I'm going to Control G group it, and I'll hold my Alt key, and I'll pull this over, and I'll double click, and this is image. Yay. I might as well finish, right? Only got a couple more to go. Now, and the thing about the photo or image, I said image on the artboard, but same idea. The thing about the group icon, I'm going to show you a really fast way to finish that off. But like if you're making an icon for video, man, so many things are really similar. I'm going to draw a rectangle on here. I'm going to curve the corners a little bit because I like doing that. I'm going to go get that polygon tool. I'll hold the Shift key because I want a nice regular triangle here. I'm going to take the rectangle that I made and fill it with white and stroke it with some black. And again, I'm using my 5-point stroke. Now I'm going to, and there's ways, there's a lot of ways you can do this. Let me pull this over here closer so you can kind of see me do this. I could, if I float my mouse outside the corner of that triangle, I can rotate this. But there is also, right here, there's properties over here on the top right-hand side. And if I want to rotate that by 90 degrees, I could just put in a 90 and press enter. Actually, you know what? That went kind of the wrong way, so the wrong way of what I wanted, so I might try minus 90, and I really kind of wanted it to point that way. I wanted it to point to the right. All right, so I'm going to just fill that with red. Almost looks like a YouTube kind of thing, right? Put that, and we're going to talk later on. We're going to talk about, okay, how can you make things sure that things are really, really, really centered? And yeah, you can. We'll talk about that later. So this is going to work for my video thing here. It's just a rounded rectangle with a triangle, and I'll just select all of that, and I'll Command G, Control G, and I'm going to hold my Alt key. That's going to be video. All right. Move that up a little bit, move that up a little bit. Now the only other one that is assigned, and I am not going to do the bonus in this movie. For the bonus thing, that's going to be your challenge. You're just going to have to kind of figure it out. But I did this profile icon up here, right? And if you'll look at my example of my group icon, and here's my profile icon. Well, doesn't it kind of seem like I could use the the profile icon to help build the group icon? Kind of does to me. So if I hold the Alt key and I drag this thing down here and I make myself some copies, right? Here we go. And now what I'm going to do with one of them, I'm going to make one of them a little bit bigger, and then kind of tuck the others in. You know, you can kind of play with them and see how they're stacked up. And you can also, there's ways, we'll get into it later. Over here on the left hand side, you can change the stacking order. But see the idea here? I've got it's like a little group of people, and you could arrange that however you want to. And you could play with colors. They could all be different colors if you want them to all be different colors. But the idea that it's communicating is person, 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 right? It's a group. All right, so I'm just going to take all that, and I'm going to Control G, Command G, and I might size it down just a smidge. And so that becomes my group icon. I'll hold the Alt key, take some of this text, G-R-O-U-P. Yay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All 8 icons have been created by using shape tools, pen tools, a little bit of, a few tricks from up here on the toolbar at the top. Boy, it's going to be your turn here. Now, like I said, if you want bonus, you can do bonus. The bonus is to work on doing a little heart shape or a little thumbs up or anything that would indicate like. But I'm not going to show my ideas on that. You're going to have to solve it yourself. And then the only other thing you would do is go to share and make sure that this says anyone with the link right here. When you go to turn these in, make sure it says anyone with the link, and you're going to copy the link on this little dialog box, and then you'll paste that link onto Google Classroom, and this assignment will be completed. We'll do a little check-in in our next class period to see if you were able to get this done. Again, I don't like for you to have to work on things outside of class. So if this movie's been too long and you don't get done in class, then you probably get a little time in the next class period so that you can finish it up. I'm not trying to overload anybody, but I do want you to be successful, and I do want you to do a decent job. I want you to pay attention to the details and do some good work. All right? End the video, off you go.